Oh, man, if you were looking for some positive news on the San Francisco 49ers, I'm afraid I got some bad news for you because they keep missing out on people. We'll talk about the first week of 49ers free agency. I guess the lack of free agency on a new Sprint Right Option podcast starting now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Right Option podcast. My goodness, Jason Aponte. We are live, a new episode of the Sprint Right Option podcast. Jason Aponte, looks like you're in one of those beautiful Sports Illustrated 49ers windbreakers. Loved getting those things in my catalogs back when I was a kid. Those things are beautiful. Just want to shout out the drip, the swag, the outfit of Jason Aponte before we dive in too deep. Jason, how you doing today?
I can't believe that you recognize that. And legit, my father signed up for Sports Illustrated just to get this for me for a whole year. And it's crazy because it does have the SI on the side here too. I was cleaning out my closet and I found it in the back. And I was like, I need to add this to the rotation, man. Yeah. So, hey, you know what? We're off to a flying start.
Flying start. Hey, man, I recognize those Sports Illustrated jackets anywhere. I never got one. I feel like I got one that said like property of the 49ers, like when they did t-shirts instead of the jackets. I've always wanted those jackets. So just kudos to the drip for Jason Aponte. One of the very few kudos going out in this episode. I just want to make sure we gave it to Jason Aponte, but this is a new Sprint Right Option podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini. I'm not sure if you figured it out yet, but Jason Aponte is the man I'm talking to. I've said his name about 14 times in a minute and 51 seconds here, so I'm sure you know who that is. Jason, I wish we could start the podcast with positive news because it feels like every day there's a new kind of swift kick to the balls for 49ers fans. I thought we would start with the good news of the Jordan Mason trade, which I know a lot of people don't seem to think is good news. I do.
Good news?
But then we get shafted, I'm going to use the word, with news that came across here in the past few hours before we were going live, Jason. Azeez Ojulari signs with the Philadelphia Eagles, and safety Juan Thornhill signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ojulari, I never saw anything really connecting the 49ers to Ojulari this offseason. I know they had some interest in Ojulari at the trade deadline, I believe the past couple of seasons from the New York Giants. So it made sense that the 49ers would be interested in him, especially when you look at the 49ers pass rush room. It's a little empty right now, Jason, dare I say. But Ojulari spurns the 49ers, whatever interest they might have had, to sign with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think we could put that in the category of Elijah Mitchell signing with the Chiefs. He's going to find it out in that spot. Of course he is, right? That's how it's going to work. And then maybe a little more related to the Niners, because I know they had him in for a visit last Thursday. Juan Thornhill pulls the reverse Kyle Juszczyk, visits the 49ers, and signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's where we'll start, just because it's the most recent. I figured we would just kind of start with what's happened recently and then kind of work our way back to things that happened a couple days ago. So let's just start with the Ojulari and Thornhill signings. And really, individually, I don't think either of them are massive misses. Ojulari, I think you could say maybe because of the positional need. This just goes into the category of the 49ers just aren't really signing anybody that you would personally be familiar with, unless his name's Mac Jones, and we'll talk about that name here in a little bit. Let's stay with Ojulari and Thornhill first.
1 year, $4 million feels like a drop in the bucket for a 24-year-old pass rusher. And regardless if you believe, he can't run, defend, $4 million 1 year for trying to unlock a situational, rotational pass rusher who's 24 years old. Fine. I guess the 49ers are not in on him. And again, understanding the plan, understanding the thought process does not mean you need to agree with it. And I think that's where I want to start here. I know for a fact the 49ers are not spending. I know for a fact the 49ers want to reset and they want to get back in the draft. That's fine. I don't have to agree with the shit, but it doesn't mean that me agreeing with it changes what their plans are. These are their plans, like it or not. Better or worse, this is what the 49ers are doing. For the combined salary of Joshua Uche and Azeez Ojulari, they paid Luke Farrell. That is $10 million for 2 edge rushers in their 20s. And if Chris Kosurik's the guy you believe he is, right? Miracle worker, he gets the best out of everybody. That's a drop in the bucket. So fine, whatever. The 49ers just aren't spending. The Thornhill thing I don't care about. They'll draft a safety. That was something that just sounded nice. He's been a very good player in the league, but I'm good on that. I don't really care. But this idea that now, and you wrote about this, now the draft is literally all 11 picks have to hit now for it to be a successful draft. That's kind of crazy to me. So like the thing is relying on the draft is one thing, and you had a very successful draft with results pending on a few other players from last year's draft, but you are making it seem now that these 11 picks all have to hit now, and nobody should ever be forced to think that way because that's almost impossible. So I don't know, man. I have a feeling they'll be in the draft. That'll be fine. They'll sign somebody like Zadarius Smith, and they'll bring in Von Miller, but none of that's gonna move anybody. The idea is if you're talking about low risk, high upside guys, and Chris Kosurik's this magic worker with defensive line guys, which I'm going to keep bringing that up because that reputation is not as earned as everybody, has been throwing out there, because I feel like only 2 or 3 guys have actually gotten good under Chris Kosurik. The rest of them have just been guys, and the legend continues.
Is the most recent one Kerry Hyder?
No, it's
Am I forgetting someone?
Key.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you got those ones.
So for me, man, I don't know. You're gonna fill out this roster. It's fine. I understand the plan. I get it. It's all in the draft. We get it, man. But God, man, 2 edge rushers that are in their 20s. Come on, like you definitely could have signed those guys. Please, come on.
You almost naturally got that. That was really impressive. You almost naturally got to the Rich Madrid impression there, just on accident at the very end there, and then you kind of pulled away from it. I thought it was really impressive. And yeah, I'm not losing sleep over Thornhill at all. It's just mainly this continued trend of the 49ers are in on this guy, and you could go back to Joey Bosa last week. 49ers are in on this guy. They didn't get him. Dre Greenlaw could be another one. It sounds like the Niners made a last-second push for him. It sounds like he really wanted to go to Denver, and so he went to Denver. The Ojulari one, though, especially with the money that came out, 1 year, $4 million. I've seen the 49ers take flyers on so many pass rushers these past few years. Like you mentioned a couple right there, right? Arden Key was taking a flyer on him. Kerry Hyder taking a flyer. And now there's these young, like, I don't want to say, I'm not going to call a 24-year-old a draft pick, but 24 is still, there's still something there, regardless of what you think of Ojulari's on-field ability. And Jason, you mentioned the bad run game. Like, I know the Niners need to fix the run defense, but have you seen the front four? They need bodies at this point, like just anybody, because shout out Brad Graham, his current 49ers starting DL, Nick Bosa, Yetur Gross-Matos, Evan Anderson, and Sammy O. That's what our guy Brad Graham has as a starting D-line. That's just simply not good enough. And now what the Niners are doing, with their reluctance to go get Ojulari, with their reluctance to get Uchi, with them and not being able to get Joey Bosa, is whatever player they draft at 11 or whatever's the first pass rusher, the first defensive lineman that they choose to select, whether it's at 11 or in the second round, whatever it may be, they're putting so much pressure, because the only pass rusher on this roster right now that you feel good about is Nick Bosa. Like, I know Yetur Gross-Matos showed flashes last year, but injuries, we really don't know. Sammy O showed flashes. We still don't know about him. Now the Niners are in a spot where they whoever they draft as the second pass rusher, and ignore all of this if they somehow get Trey Hendrickson, like they'd spend the money for him. Ignore all of this, but that's the only name out there right now that makes it feel like, hey, they're not going to put all this pressure on whichever rookie pass rusher they're going to sign. And now, like, they're not even going cheap for these players. And that's something the Niners told us, right? We talked about it a couple weeks ago with the Mike Silver article. I didn't realize 1 year, $4 million flyer on Azeez Ojulari was too much. And now it's really a concern. Like, I knew, not that it wasn't a concern last week or 2 weeks ago, but it's more of a concern now than than any time before. Jonas, Jason, I really see your vision about Will Johnson. Him around with two Maloa round 2, Collins round 3, CB and DL fix. I like the idea of Will Johnson. Absolutely. I still love Will Johnson at 11. It's
He's gonna
just
fall.
he is, but with the state of this defensive line,
Yeah.
like I
don't think the 49ers are gonna be in on him, Giannis.
No.
But I'm glad you see the player. But realistically, when you look at this defense, let's just I don't have time to mince words. You need a starting safety.
Yeah.
You need a starting linebacker. You need a starting edge. You need a starting defensive tackle. You need a starting defensive tackle. Am I starting to get warm of what this defense needs?
Another corner.
Is this easy? Like, is this easy to just say, hey, we're just going to draft a starting linebacker, a starting safety, a starting edge, 2 defensive tackles? Is that easy? Are you putting yourself in a position where the draft is easy now? Or are you putting yourself in a position that it's filled with uncertainty, and now you have to make sure you hit on all these players because you are missing all these guys, and you're not going to allocate any money to any of these positions right now? Like Juan Thornhill, no thank you. CJ Mosley, they're probably not going to sign him. All these edge guys, probably not going to sign anybody.
Mm-hmm.
All these defensive tackles, probably not going to sign anybody. So it's got to be all in the draft. Robert Saleh, you're about to make the hardest money you've ever made in your life, gang, because you are about to have so many new players in these spots, and they're all, for all intents and purposes, going to be rookies and or end-of-the-line vets. I don't know what else to say.
They have 11 picks. I mean, last year, what you want to say? They hit on 6 of them last year, right? Green,
if Jacob Cowing plays, Jacob Cowing plays, Garendo, right? Like you can get there, but you're realistically Pooney, Green, Mustafa, Pearsall. You got 4. If you get Garendo and you get Cowing, that's 6. That's great. Is that typical? No. Is it impossible? No. But you're putting yourself in a position where this draft has to work.
And then you go back to the years before 2024's draft and you look at those names and remember, oh yeah, they haven't been very good at drafting generally. So it's such an intriguing strategy, and I'm very curious to see how the draft kind of plays itself out. I know there's still a month and some change before the draft, but again, there's no free agent out there that's going to make you feel better about this situation. Tommy, why can't Luter start? Jason, I'll let you take that one.
I don't think that Darrell Luter should be counted out at all. I think the 49ers absolutely want to give him a look. And in their mind, the best way that this works out is Luter turns into the corner that they thought they were getting in the draft, who was coming off an injury. He plays outside, and then you've got an in-house guy. So I think that while we're out here talking about, I've mentioned I love Will Johnson as a prospect and, all the ideas of drafting a cornerback in the draft, I do think the 49ers are very high on Luter, and I do think he's going to get a shot, and they are going to give him an extended look, almost like found money, because he's in the building while addressing a need. So I agree, and I think this is a good point to bring up, is I don't think that Darrell Luter's out of the running here by any stretch of the imagination. I think a little bit of the plan was, okay, man, it's like 3 or 4 years right there. Go. Now here's the plan in motion with him.
Yeah, and nothing against Luter, me not calling him a starter, but if we're talking about, and this is a slippery slope, because I don't even know if you can confidently say this, but if you want to pretend the 2025 Niners are a playoff team, and you're talking Darrell Luter as CB3 at the start of the season, no disrespect to Luter, but that feels like a name you can improve off of. But that falls into the slippery slope of, are the 49ers playing for the 2025 playoffs? And that opens a whole other series of questions.
Andrew, I think the San Francisco 49ers are a playoff team in 2025. And here's why. Offensively, and I know this sounds gross because I do want an upgrade at center. The offense has their starters.
Yep.
Everyone's starting. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't want Jake Brendel starting as center, but the 49ers are going to be clear that at times that they're fine with that. I think when you pair the last place schedule, I think the offense is going to have to do the heavy lifting now for the defense. Keeping the defense off the field, you're going to see a lot of those 12-play, 17-play, 87-yard drives. They have to end in touchdowns. That's how you're going to win these games. But I do think the 49ers are a playoff team, regardless of how the defense is probably going to take a step back, in my opinion. They'll do enough on defense. They'll do enough, but on offense, they're gonna have to do the heavy lifting. And I do believe that the offense, while it has all the sum of its parts, and if you and this is not even me factoring in Brandon Ayuk, I'm almost operating under the assumption that he's not going to contribute this year. Almost again, like that's just an added bonus. I do think the 49ers are a playoff team, Andrew. And call me overly optimistic. Maybe it's the Red Bull that's hitting me and making my brain not work. But I do think the 49ers are a playoff team, actually. And they're not trying to be.
I think that's I agree. I don't think here, let me word it like this. The current roster construction is telling me that they're not trying to be a playoff team in 2025. But Jason, you made a point that I forget about because it's March. You look at that fucking schedule and you think an average team can go 10-7, 11-6 with this, and that's a playoff team. So you're absolutely correct. I think the roster construction is saying one thing, but the schedule is just sitting there, and you see those AFC South, those NFC South logos, and you're like, there's games to be won here. It's just the building is not there.
It's going to be hilarious when the 49ers organization turns into the owner from Major League who doesn't want to see them win because they kind of like they set up this entire season to have another high pick so they can continue to invest. And here come the 49ers, and they're probably going to win 11 games, and it's going to give them one of those lower end picks that they never thought that they were going to get. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the 49ers organization be up in that booth like the woman from Major League rooting against the 49ers, try to get that high pick that they thought they were going to get with the way that they're constructing this roster going into this season.
Are you implying that after every 2025 win, they're going to remove a piece of clothing
from Parag Marate?
Oh, it's going to be a duo, Parag and Jed. Just one piece of clothing every win. I like that. Good reference. Good Major League references here on the Sprint Right Option Podcast. Hey, subscribe if you haven't already. Jason Aponte's YouTube channel is fantastic.
Run those likes up.
Jason, we got the panic from today over. Let's talk about some things we missed over the weekend, over the last week since we talked. Let's start with what happened yesterday. The 49ers made a trade. They traded Jordan Mason to the Minnesota Vikings.
I thought that was Saturday.
Saturday, yesterday, all days are the same at this point, Jason Aponte. Saturday, you are correct, though. Thank you very much for correcting me there. Jordan Mason and round 6, pick 187 goes to Minnesota. The 49ers get round 5, pick 160 and a 2026 6th-round pick for Jordan Mason. Jason, I saw your Twitter rant. I saw things you tweeted. So I'm going to give you the floor. But I'm just going to say, I don't disagree with anything you said, because if we're talking value, Jordan Mason, undrafted free agent, the 49ers got essentially a 5th and a 6th. They had to flip their 6th to get the 5th. Mm-hmm. I would say that's very good value for a guy who ideally on the 49ers would have only had 40 carries in 2025. But I'll let you talk Jordan Mason first.
First off, I appreciate the fan base's passion.
Yes.
Nobody goes hard for their players like the 49ers fan base. Do I think the outcry and the complaining about Jordan Mason leaving was a little overblown? I'm just going to flat out say yes. But I do appreciate the passion, because that's why we're able to do the things that we're able to do on social media, and we wouldn't be able to have a podcast if it wasn't for you. So I enjoy that. But I'll tell you this. I see this as an absolute win. Mm-hmm. You move up almost a full round in the draft, 27 spots, 32 teams, 27 spots in the draft to a round that you have been largely dominant in. Do you want me to go back through the names? George Kittle, Diamador Lenore, 5th round. You guys, that's the thing. It's like, I don't understand the value of this. And what's a 5th round pick? That's a 5th round pick. The 49ers are much better in the 5th round than they are in the 1st, historically, right? So you move up 27 picks. That's great. You get a pick for an undrafted free agent in the 6th round. That's great. But guys, Jordan Mason is replaceable. Mm-hmm. And before you say it, I'm going to say it. Joe Williams, Ty Davis-Price, Trey Sermon. Cool. Now do the hits. Elijah Mitchell, Matt Breida, Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason. Don't bring up the 3 names that are the funniest to you about the way the 49ers have done the running back position, and then leave out the other ones just because they weren't draft picks. Tevin Coleman scored 3 touchdowns and 5 touchdowns in this offense. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can't in one breath tell me that the 49ers and this system breed running backs. Andrew, anyone can get behind this line and run for 1,000 yards, right?
Yeah.
But now we're crying because Jordan Mason left and he'll never be replaced. Oh, dear. How will the 49ers replace a guy who can't catch the football, largely just runs between the 20s, can't finish in the red zone, has a lot of yards, hurts his shoulder a lot, but because he has dreads, he's got to be Marshawn Lynch. This is an absolute steal of value. 27 picks in the draft, another pick. You're going to draft another running back, and everything's going to be fine. And you know what else is funny? Jordan Mason's not even going to beat out Aaron Jones for number 1 running back in Minnesota. How on earth could the 49ers have moved on from a backup running back? Of all the things that we could have complained about this offseason in free agency, this is the one that is the best move so far, in my opinion. My God.
I got a bigger complaint. How dare they release that long snapper we liked on Twitter? No, listen, Jordan Mason. Here's the thing about Jordan Mason. The Niners don't have to replace 2024 Jordan Mason. They don't. They have to replace 2022 and 2023 Jordan Mason, because the goal is Christian McCaffrey's taken 90% of the carries, 80% of the carries again this season, right? Last year, the only reason Jordan Mason broke out is because he got that opportunity. He had the opportunity because of Christian McCaffrey. And I understand that we can't pretend that Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy. He's another year older. It's an Achilles, but it's March. I could pretend whatever the hell I want to pretend. I'm going to pretend like Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy for 16, 15 games. Jordan Mason had 83 carries from 2022 and 2023. Behind Christian McCaffrey, 40 in 2023, 43 in 2022. That's all you're looking to replace right now. And even if McCaffrey gets hurt, you have Garendo. You cannot tell me that pick your poison, Scatabo, Tootin, ETN, if you want to get real kinky, Gene T at 11. Like, you cannot tell me the 49ers. I know.
God, no.
That's why I said kinky. Let's get kinky, right?
Kinky like a kick in the balls. Absolutely
yes,
not.
Exactly,
I know you're watching this, Kyle and John. Someone lock him out of the room.
Yeah, no Gene T at 11, please. No Gene T at 11. But you're trying to tell me that the 49ers, who just kind of produce these running backs. I mean, another name that's not even draft related, Raheem Mostert. He was a special teamer when the 49ers got him.
Chip Kelly
turned him into a running back.
And then he brought him back to Las Vegas because he's the offensive coordinator there, right? Like, there's
really
too
weird.
many
Another
names.
player the Niners couldn't sign. Huh? Weird.
There's
weird.
too many names of guys who have been productive in this offense. Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, who they flipped for a pick as well, too, as soon as they got Christian McCaffrey. And remember, people cried about that, too. I don't know how you could trade Jeff Wilson for a pick. Guys, are you starting to get it?
Yeah.
Jordan Mason was good. Nobody values 49ers players like this fan base. Who cares? They'll find somebody else. They'll find somebody else who's productive. And if it's somebody that they draft and he flops, it's fine. They'll find an undrafted guy and he'll do fine. Remember, they drafted Ty Davis-Price in the 3rd round. Elijah Mitchell started, and he's the one who won the rookie, set the rookie rushing record. It doesn't matter. Yes, Tevin Coleman was productive. Tevin Coleman had a season with 12 touchdowns for the 49ers. He had 5 in one game against the Panthers, and he was a relic. Yes, Tevin Coleman was productive. Like, how are we forgetting all this stuff? Like, he literally started in the Super Bowl over Mostert after Mostert scored 3 touchdowns and 200 yards in that game. Yes, Tevin Coleman was productive. Come on.
Did we mention Matt Breida too? Is that a name that's come up?
Matt
as well?
Breida, undrafted free agent. Like, I don't understand. You've got all these moments of success with also rans, guys who've been drafted, guys who haven't been drafted. I mean, even the Broncos, right? Like Mike Shanahan. Do you guys remember Olandis Gary? Right? Like they get production from everybody. Like, it's not a big deal, man. Jordan Mason's replaceable. Nobody values their players like 49ers players. He's a good player. He's a good back. By no means Barry Sanders. Have fun in Minnesota. I didn't lose an iota of sleep over it, and I think the return was absolutely perfect.
Now's as good a chance I'll ever get it. What about Alfred Morris? I just wanted to say his name, reference him. We're just naming running backs at this point. I just want to throw Alfred Morris. Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a good move because not just you're moving off of a running back that probably didn't fit into the 2025 plans, and if he did, he probably wouldn't get much use. But Jason, we spent the first 20 minutes of this podcast talking about how important this draft is going to be. They just moved up a full round, essentially.
27 picks, and someone's like, "Oh, I don't get this return." What? That's a 27 pick trade up. You wouldn't be able to do that with anybody else.
So I would say this is a net positive. And again, Jason, you made the best point. Let's see what those touch numbers look like in January 2026. We'll look at the Vikings and see what Aaron Jones has compared to Jordan Mason, and then we'll see what that looks like and see how just correct Niner fans were. So
here's the funniest part. Here's what's going to be the most funny part. When the Minnesota Vikings draft a running back and he has more touches and snaps than Jordan Mason. Because the Minnesota Vikings are drafting a running back as well, too. They have to plan for life after Aaron Jones. Jordan Mason is not the replacement for Aaron Jones' skill set. It's going to be hilarious, and we're going to come back, and I am going to pull up the tweets because people said a lot of mean things to me. Shame on you guys. We're just talking football. Shame on you guys for being so mean. But when the Vikings draft another running back and he outsnaps, outtouches, outproduces Jordan Mason, I'll be back. Watch your back. Just letting you know.
Jordan Mason is a quality rotation running back, nothing more than that. And the Niners aren't looking to rotate. Ideally, Christian McCaffrey's healthy. So that just is what it is. They have Garendo. They'll have future running back they choose to draft in the draft coming up here. So really, that's it. Good trade by the Niners. Good value for the Niners, especially for a guy that really didn't have a role on the team until McCaffrey got hurt. And then that's when he kind of picked up. Jason, we left last Monday with the breaking news that Kyle Juszczyk was released by the San Francisco 49ers. And then we woke up to the news on Saturday morning that the longest tenured 49er is back. 2-year, $8 million deal with Kyle Juszczyk. The 49ers signed him. He visited the Pittsburgh Steelers. He apparently did not like the situation in Pittsburgh, decided to come back to San Francisco. This was obviously, I think there's two ways to look at this. This was a release that would give him a chance to go see what was out there. He didn't get what he wanted. But this also kind of tells me that I don't think the Niners necessarily know what they're trying to do right now. If anything, I think this is the one move that really indicates it. They released Juszczyk. They signed Luke Farrell with the idea of, and everybody said Farrell was going to replace Juszczyk, his role in the offense, and that includes certain writers that are saying that Juszczyk is back. That's a good thing. You know who I'm talking about. But now they bring back Juszczyk, and now we're kind of sitting here with Luke Farrell, and we could say, and I know NFL contracts are sitting here, you know, they're all concepts, NFL contracts. They're essentially paying $20 million to Charlie Warner's replacement at this point.
Yes.
And that's where I get confused. Listen, I'm not trying to sit here and say a blocking tight end is worth a 3-year, $20 million deal. But when you were telling me that, hey, he might kind of step into this Juszczyk role, okay, like maybe multi-versatile again. It's probably a 2-year, like $8 million contract. Kind of what Juszczyk signed is probably what Farrell ends up being with the guarantees and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But now you're trying to tell me that, well, the plan was always to bring back Kyle Juszczyk, and you still chose to replace Charlie Warner with a $20 million contract. Like, to me, the Juszczyk situation just kind of tells me the Niners are going off of vibes instead of a real plan. Okay,
here it is. This is my source. It's vibes, and it's me putting everything together. Ready? The 49ers cut Kyle Juszczyk. They figured someone's going to pay Kyle Juszczyk. And we don't have to worry about it. It's out of our hands. And the Pittsburgh Steelers did exactly that. The Pittsburgh Steelers were going to give more money. And Kyle Juszczyk said, no, thanks. I don't want to play in Pittsburgh. I'll go back to the 49ers for that less amount of money, which the 49ers thought would have been good enough to have him move on from. The problem that I have with the 49ers is when he comes back and says, I'll take that deal, you say no.
Yeah.
Your plan to have somebody else pay him worked. But it didn't work because Kyle Juszczyk still came back to you. But what you had to do was say, no. You better go back to Pittsburgh and take that deal. But I want to say this. I rationalized how this offense is, and I think a lot of people are confused about the blocking tight end thing. So let's go through it. Yeah. The 49ers drafted Charlie Warner. to block. The 49ers lost Charlie Warner so he could block in Atlanta. The 49ers signed Brock Wright to an offer sheet from the Lions to block. The Detroit Lions matched that offer for Brock Wright to block. The 49ers signed a blocking tight end, Luke Farrell, to block. They are telling you, we always want a second tight end who is going to be here to block.
Yep.
We don't care about your thoughts and your feelings about wanting a second tight end to be out there and run routes with George Kittle. This is how we're going to run our offense. And that either signifies one or two things for you. One, the 49ers are sticking with the things that they really, really are, used to doing on offense. Or two, this offense isn't going to be evolving as much as we thought it would without Juszczyk and without a blocking tight end. And it's not going to be more spread out with more wide receivers and people being out more. So, yeah, I don't know. Take that how it is. I can rationalize the whole blocking tight end and Juszczyk thing because that's just how they want to use it. But their plan of allowing Kyle Juszczyk to go get paid, it blew up in their face because he did get money that was more. And he said, nah, I'm coming back. And then the 49ers said, all right, well, I guess. Instead, you should have just said, nah, man, we're good. Like, go take that money in Pittsburgh. Like, stop. But he ultimately wanted to play here. His wife was more comfortable with that. He's friends with a lot of the people on the team. And they brought him back. And you know what? I guess the best way to spin it is Kyle Juszczyk is going to be a lifetime 49er, and he's going to be one of those guys that ends his career as a 49er. I don't know, man. That's all I got.
Yeah, listen, it's nothing against the player, Kyle Juszczyk. I understand how popular he is among Niner fans. I understand his role in this offense from 5 years ago when we would remember when the broadcast would be like, oh, the Niners offense is real easy. Just watch where Kyle Juszczyk goes. That's where the ball's going because of how how important he was to this offense. It's just more the process of it, of everything. Just remove Juszczyk's name from it. You cut a player to let him go look at other things. And I believe there was a dead cap number involved in cutting him, right? So you're eating a dead cap number to let him look for other teams. He gets a better offer from another team and he just comes back. And it's a weird one to me. And again, I just reiterate, this was the signing of I don't think they really know what the plan is at this moment. It's just it's Kyle doesn't have as much control as he used to have, but he still kind of does because I feel like he would be the guy to go to bat for Kyle Juszczyk and bring him back, just like another guy they signed. We'll talk about him next year, Jason. But I just don't understand the sequence of signing a blocker who everybody said would be a Juszczyk type. A type that can step into that role of the offense just to bring back Juszczyk. And now you're just kind of sitting here with Luke Farrell as your Charlie Warner, just much more expensive. And I understand the role. It's just the sequence. I can't put my finger on it, Jason. It's just that sequence of events doesn't sit well with me. And then I realize I'm complaining about a tight end too and a fullback. And I don't really want to expound on it because it just kind of feels like a silly thing to complain about. But just that sequence is just it's weird and it feels weird, and everything about this offseason has felt weird, starting with the Mike Silver article to the Joey Bosa was going to be a Niner to now he's a Bill type. Just a really, really, really weird offseason from the Niners, and I think that's kind of the point of this podcast, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, again, their plan of allowing him to get paid somewhere else, it almost worked. It almost worked. The Steelers were very happy to pay him a little bit more, but he said, playing in Pittsburgh, playing in San Francisco, all right, we can go back. Those rascals, they cut me, but I'll take a little less to come back, so fine. But yeah, it is a little because you just look at 1 year, $4 million for Azeez Ojulari, 1 year, $6 million for Joshua Uche, man, it would have been nice to take a shot on one of those guys because they present so much more upside rather than the guy who has a defined role as a fullback on this team.
So from one Kyle Shanahan guy and Kyle Juszczyk to another, and Jason, I don't think there's going to be any signing that gets a bigger reaction for the rest of the offseason, maybe for the next 5 years for the 49ers. The Niners solved their backup quarterback woes. They signed McCorkle Jones to a 2-year deal worth up to $7 million. It was a fun night. That was a fun night on Twitter. I I personally not a huge fan of it, but that's because I was teased with Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Do you want my narcissist take on this, or do you kind of want my straightforward take first?
Both of them.
Narcissist take. Hey, there's this contract the Niners are negotiating with this quarterback. Don't know if you've heard anything about it. Very important contract negotiation. A lot of people are saying this offseason is indicative of this contract. But let's just say hypothetically that contract negotiation doesn't go as well as you planned. You would now have a backup quarterback who has 49 career starts, has a playoff appearance in his rookie season, and then got fucked up by Matt Patricia. Then had to go to Jacksonville, which I have a feeling we all know how Jacksonville goes. When you go to Jacksonville, it's not great. Now the Niners sign him to where you have a guy who can start in an instance of, I don't know, maybe you decide to blow this thing up in April, right? And you don't extend that quarterback. That's the narcissist take. The calm, normal take is if you extend Brock Purdy and something happens where he's hurt, sentence is going to sound really silly, but I trust Mac Jones more than I trust Brandon Allen. I trust Mac Jones more than I trust Josh Dobbs. I trust Mac Jones more than I trust Sam Darnold when the Niners signed him as their backup. It's a damn fine backup quarterback signing. There, I said it. You sickos, clip it, whatever you want to do. It is just such a logical backup quarterback signing where you also get that added bonus of, well, if we have to move on from Purdy because the negotiations aren't working, he does have 49 career starts. And that's however you want to look at it. I don't think either way is the wrong way to look at it. I think the right way to look at it now is just a very good backup quarterback.
Look, the idea number one is to get Brock Purdy done. And I think the 49ers are absolutely doing that. The 49ers didn't bring in Mac Jones to, put in the back of Brock Purdy's mind, like, you better sign here, or no. What it is 2-3 things, really. One, if Brock Purdy decides to hold out and things go completely left, then okay, we have a capable quarterback. Two, this makes absolute sense for Mac Jones. Mac Jones wants to get that Sam Darnold stimulus package that'll kind of throw him back into the idea of being a starting quarterback next season if he can show a little bit more. And I think he is very good for this offense. And three, this is absolutely a little bit of Kyle Shanahan righting his wrongs with taking Trey Lance over him because, he definitely had them both on the short list. But I also want to push back on this, and I have, and you guys can check out the video on my channel, Shorts. Kyle Shanahan was not talked into taking Trey Lance without over Mac Jones. He took Trey Lance on his own volition. Okay. So I don't accept that. There's no way that anybody is ever going to be able to convince me that the idea of moving to 3 for Kyle to get his guy was him walking in and saying, I want Mac Jones. And Jed York and them said, sorry, buddy, best I could do is Trey Lance. Thank you. No. If Mac Jones was the pick, he would have been here. Mac Jones wasn't the pick, but he certainly was on the short list. He didn't want Justin Fields. He might not have wanted Zach Wilson, but it didn't matter because he went number 2. It was between Trey and Mac. He chose Trey. But again, Mac Jones, this makes absolute sense in terms of offensive fit. Him putting his name back into the discussion as a starting quarterback, a la Sam Darnold, and look what happened with him. And he'll make himself interesting in the next year. 49ers could turn around and flip him for a pick, something like that if they wanted to. And, and that could absolutely happen because quarterback is very important. And also, again, if things go left all of a sudden and they just unforeseen things happen with Brock Purdy and his contract negotiation, then fine, we'll just roll with Mac Jones this year. And, that was the plan. It seems like to lose anywhere. So
I feel like we don't talk enough about how the 49ers traded up to 3 a month and a half before the draft to take the guaranteed third best quarterback in the draft. I feel like that just kind of gets brushed over.
Well, I'll say this. I think the most frustrating part of that process was the 49ers moving to 3, and then they're saying, who's got Ohio State tape? Who's got no NDSU tape? Who's got, you literally didn't watch any of these guys until you moved up to 3. It's like, hey, we're at number 3. Let's start doing the work. That's just poor process. Is poor process.
I could have shown them one highlight and Penei Sewell would have been the pick, man. The further, listen, I threw that take out there knowing it never would work because they had Trent Williams, and Niner fans are going to get real mad at me for saying they had Mike McGlinchey, so they were semi-set at tackles. But boy, oh boy, history has made me look very smart there. Yeah, Jason, this is It's just a funny signing. I think that's really why it got the attention, just because of everything that the 2021 draft was. But the Niners finally got their guy, Mac Jones. Big signing, obviously. No, I'm joking. It just backup quarterback. And as I said, Jason, I don't think that the Brock Purdy contract negotiations are going to go so sideways where
No.
Mac Jones is playing. But
insulating yourself isn't the wrong idea.
Exactly. And I saw multiple people have the take of, well, Mac Jones now puts pressure on Brock Purdy to perform better. Boy, oh boy, if you thought Brock Purdy needed Mac Jones to put pressure on him,
right.
I think you're telling me your opinion on what you think on who Brock Purdy is at this point.
Yeah. We got a bigger problem if McCorkle is the one that's lighting the fire underneath him. Hey, the 49ers have an opportunity to do the funniest thing in the history of football. And again, I'm fully on board with, if you're not going to make moves that make sense for me, we might as well make moves that are hilarious. And here's the hilarious one. Signing Trey Lance to be the emergency third quarterback. Oh my God.
Oh, I
need this more than I need oxygen.
I think the even funnier one would have been emergency QB3 Zach Wilson and then Trey Lance practice squad. But too early. Too late for that now.
Which might let us know that Mike McDaniel really liked Zach Wilson during that process, right? Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm just reading into that a little bit, too far, but it could be that the room was split on who they wanted, and obviously there was going to be no real chance for them to get Zach Wilson, so he can, he was going to be taken at the second, but Mike McDaniel jumping all over Zach Wilson when he's available, that's kind of telling, and I'm choosing to run with it. And the reason I'm choosing to run with it is because Adam Peters signed Javon Kinlaw to that horrific deal, and now we know who was in on that and who was the reason that he was the pick. So I think that's kind of funny to me too. So I'm putting the pieces together in that way.
My very early hot take for the 2025 season that has nothing to do with the 49ers, Jason, is when we get the 1 month of no Tua for whatever miscellaneous injury he has.
Mm-hmm.
That Zach Wilson 1 month might be enough to be like, oh, we can improve on Tua, because I could. With how their offense works, I could totally see Zach Wilson just being so good, especially with Waddle and especially with Tyreek Hill, and then maybe a running back they add in the draft, whatever it may be. I know they're looking for some running backs. I know they got what's his name, man? Not Mostert. Who's the really good one? Who's the Dolphins running back?
Devon Achane.
There we go. I got it. We got there. Jason, the Niners have me so deep in this shit that I just forget other teams' players. HN, thank you very much. Jason, one more move before we kind of talk about the signings the 49ers made. They released Tabor Pepper. Your thoughts?
Don't care.
Okay, there we go. So the Niners signed 8 players so far. Mac Jones, Luke Farrell, DeMarcus Robinson. We didn't talk much about that last week. Cornerback Trey Brown, linebacker Luke Gifford, safety Richie Grant, cornerback Jason Pinnock, and long snapper John Weeks. Jason, that's really your list right now. I don't expect it to get much better. Mac Jones is probably the prime signature of this free agency class. So I'm gonna avoid Mac Jones. Who's the player you think could have the biggest impact on the 2025 49ers out of that list?
DeMarcus Robinson, I think, easily off the rip. I mean, he's definitely somebody who can start right away. I don't know if that means that Ricky Pearsall comes off the field, but not as fast as he once was in Kansas City, but a highly productive player. Of his 30 catches, I believe 7 were touchdowns. Obviously, that helps with Matthew Stafford's the quarterback. A little bit more of a red zone threat. DeMarcus Robinson's going to have to play football and take a lot of snaps, because it's going to be Pearsall and Jennings, and that's it. Everything else is kind of just a toss-up with the wide receiver group. Is it going to be Cowing? I'd love that. Are they going to draft someone else? For sure. I'd love for them to sign someone, but, they signed Isaiah Hodgins. I think we're forgetting that as well, too, early on. He's going to be a part of the mix, but DeMarcus Robinson has a chance to be an impactful person right off the rip when everybody else is essentially special teamers. So we have to talk about this and just say the 49ers have always allocated money to players on special teams, but they're paying attention this year to special teams by changing the coordinator and allowing that coordinator to make moves. So obviously the coordinator thought the long snapper wasn't going to be a part of this. That's fine. You bring somebody else in. It's negligible. You just bring in the next guy who can snap. It's not that hard. And then, you let him craft the special teams room. So they are paying attention to special teams as they have in other years, but the results have to be different, and hopefully the special teams coordinator will change that. But I think it's DeMarcus Robinson right off the bat, because he's going to have to take snaps, particularly in 3 wide receiver sets.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you. I knew you were going to take DeMarcus Robinson, so that's why I'm going to take Gifford, Grant, and I guess by association weeks. Listen, I know it's tough, especially right now because we're used to these special team signings being a part of Javon Hargrave or Tarvarius Ward, where it's like extra to the big signing, and there hasn't been a big signing yet necessarily, unless you want to count McCorkle Jones. But the Niners are still working on redoing that special teams unit. Gifford and Grant, I've heard great things for them both in special teams, especially Gifford. Anything to fix this special teams, I guess that's not replacing the punter or the kicker, is on the table at this moment. And anything includes Gifford and Grant and Weeks as well. So I'm excited to see what the special teams looks like this season. I think that's the 5th year I've said that now, Jason, and we pray that it gets fixed one time. Why can't it be this year? New coordinator, why not this year? So yeah, I'll give you Robinson. I'll take Gifford, Grant, and Weeks just because of what it could mean for the special teams unit.
Yeah, and again, Pinnock is probably going to play safety at times. So, maybe I think the idea is, under Saleh, does he fix him? Whatever. It's just competition for the safety group as of right now. A lot of these guys, we don't know necessarily if they're just going to be camp bodies as well too. Like, don't get swayed by the contract, because I'm not saying Luke Farrell's a camp body, but some of these guys, if they sign a 1-year deal, it doesn't mean that they have to stay around, and it doesn't mean that there's any real financial ramifications when it comes to that. So we'll find out. Again, the 49ers have 11 picks. They're not going to be able to bring 11 people onto this 53 anyway. So, there's going to be some people left out in the cold. And when the 49ers do have to make a decision with one of their drafted rookies, it's most likely going to be one of these guys that were also Rams when they were picked in free agency. So I know it's not sexy. I know it's not knocking your socks off, because I'm just telling you that some of these guys might not even be here when it's time for a training camp to wind down. But yeah, that's all I really got for you guys.
Jason, you touched on the draft there for a second. We're about 45 minutes. We're wrapping up here, but we are, not to say we haven't been in draft season. We're about a month and some change away from the draft. We're really full-fledged into the draft season at this point. Is there any draft scenarios you wanted to throw out there, kind of what you're thinking, what the Niners can do at 11? I have one I want to throw out. I want to hear your thoughts first, kind of where your brain is at 11.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the idea is if Mason Graham's there at 11, they're going to run the card up. If Mason Graham is in striking distance, which is like 8 or 9, then they can take a shot and move up a little bit for him. But it's clear that they do need defensive tackle help. I think Mason Graham's a target. In a perfect world, he'll be there at 11. If not, if you're going to trade back, then Jahad Campbell's got to be the pick. I think that's the way that you immediately address the linebacker position, and you can still get into the edge market. Landon Jackson, there's a very defensive tackle heavy group this season. You can't in one breath tell me that defensive tackle is deep and then say you have to take a defensive tackle with every single pick. I think the idea of getting Jahad Campbell in on a trade back is something that I'm trying to talk myself into more and more, because I do believe that the 49ers are not going to be in the business at 11 of taking somebody like Will Campbell, who would have to be a guard for a little while, or somebody else like that, obviously not Will Johnson, because I think he's going to slide down boards with the injury concerns. But the trade back for Jahad Campbell, I think that's great. I think once you have Fred and you're trying to replace Greenlaw, there's nobody closer to being Greenlaw than Jahad Campbell right away. So I love that.
I'm glad I'm slowly getting in your brain with the Jahad Campbell idea. That's cool. I appreciate that. I saw him go 8 to Carolina on a mock draft today. The one scenario I've been playing with, and it is partially because of Jahad Campbell, just in case he does drop to that lower, the back half of the first round, is a scenario where Membu and Mason Graham are gone at 11, and I could see that happening at 4 and 5, right? And Jeanty stays on the board. I know Jeanty's really picking up at 10. But if Jeanty's on the board at 11, that Denver trade back to 20 and let Denver come up to 11 and try and get an extra second round pick. And then you're sitting here talking about, Shamar, if you want to talk about him, if Jahad Campbell's there, if Derek Harmon's there, you can kind of fall back into some of those guys who might be a touch high at 11. But if you fall back to 20, again, that's a very specific draft board falling where Graham is gone and Membu's gone and Jeanty's still there at 11. But if that happens and you could trade back with a 20 or even 22, I think that's where the Chargers are sitting. I think that's perfect. I'm getting more and more in the mindset of a trade back than staying put at 11. Because as fun as it is to think Mason Graham is going to be there at 11, I think Jacksonville takes him at 5. I don't think he even gets remotely close to where you think the Niners can trade up and get him. I would love Mason Graham. I would love, he's probably my favorite player in this draft, but realistically, I just don't think he's getting past Jacksonville. Tet McMillan, he had a 40-yard dash that was very intriguing today. We don't have film on it.
He's for the streets.
I saw Brad kind of jumped on my take that I've been squatting on for about a month now with Ted at 11. I think that's still a very fun one, but I've really gotten to the point where I think the best option, unless Mason Graham or Armand Membu is there at 11, which I don't think either of them will, is trade back to that 20 spot, get an extra second round pick, and then you're really cooking where you can maybe get 3 or 4 impact players by the time day 2 ends. So I think that's what I'm really setting on, but nothing's really moved with the Mason Graham, Armand Membu draft picks for me at 11.
Yeah, and again, it's all going to be dependent on the board. I think the 49ers, for everything that we've talked about, whether it's positive, whether it's frustrating, they do have a lot of flexibility here with the number 11 pick, particularly with what they can go with and what the scenarios can be. If the 49ers want more bites at the apple, I'm not upset with that, especially if there's a player that they had their eyes dead set on not being there, right? I would rather the 49ers step back and get a guy that they've graded in that range than reach for someone that is either out of need or just somebody that they feel like they should, take. So yeah, I love this idea. So again, the draft, it's interesting, and I understand, and I see Giannis talking about he has draft fatigue for sure. I'm tired of this draft. I'm tired of free agency already. I even went so far to make a thread on all 22 offensive plays, just to break things up. I'm definitely tired of it. But it's the stretch run now, and you have to remember, once free agency is over, everybody's needs are going to come into focus, right? Like, you're going to understand all the things that we thought a team would be needing, before the free agency, they've locked it up now, and now their views are completely different. So all those mocks that you did before, light them on fire, because none of them are going to mean anything going forward, So I think at least that's the part is free agency's really slowed down, after a week. It's almost at a crawl. So good on the 49ers for not overpaying a bunch of guys. Even if we wanted them to pay like Azeez Ojulari and all of them. But now everything's going to come a lot clearer for everybody to understand the team needs, and the 49ers are going to have their pick of all these guys in second and third free agency. Now the question really is, are they going to sign them?
Yeah, well, I hope people aren't getting too much draft fatigue, because it's only going to pick up here in the next month or so, especially from this podcast. A lot of scenarios for the 49ers to play out, a lot of needs, and a draft that they need to hit on a lot of picks. So it's going to be a very interesting month and a half for the 49ers. Hey, Jason, I think we're at the point where we're good on the 49er talk. I'm going to ask a question that I think when we started this podcast 5 years ago, I never thought I'd ask. Do I need to listen to that Playboi Carti album?
All right. So I want to say this. I absolutely love Die Lit by Playboi Carti.
Okay.
But that album clocks in at a 18 song clip. 30 songs of Playboi Carti. I don't want to sound like I'm 40, but absolutely fucking not. I'm sorry, man. Like, look. Play the songs that are good. All 3 songs with Kendrick Lamar are great. There's the song with The Weeknd. That's great. Like, listen to those records. But if you think that at the good old age of 40, that I'm going to stay up until 3 a.m. on a Thursday to listen to 30 songs of Playboi Carti, you got me all the way fucked up. So yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah. I do want to say this almost 55 minutes in, guys. If you're in here, just hit that like button for us. It helps us a ton with the algorithm. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate everybody for checking us out. But yeah, I have 30 songs of Playboi Carti. Absolutely not. No, I'd rather watch the 49ers 2020 season on a loop than do something like that.
I just got a big podcasted right there. Jason's like, hey, before we abruptly change the topic to Playboi Carti, Andrew, next time link the page, and then we will abruptly change to Playboi Carti. And that's how I should have done it. Left hand up. That's my fault. I should have been better. We're still learning. But yes, last. Wow, what am I saying? Sprint Red Option Podcast, Jason Aponte's YouTube channel. He's got a million other podcasts as well on this channel. Make sure you listen to that. Now that I got the plug out of the way, do you have an album you could suggest to me?
Oh, okay. I wasn't prepared for that, but I will go into it. So we're on a streak of, the first album was A$AP Rocky. This one was Travis Scott.
Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go through what I've been listening to lately.
For those of you who don't know, Jason Aponte is my personal Shazam for rap music. We referenced it before that Jason Aponte used to have a hip hop podcast in the wee days of the Sprint Right Option podcast. Your boy's trying to listen to more hip hop. I cannot think of a better Shazam than Jason Aponte. And that also counts for the DC movie as well. So there you go.
Okay. So this suggestion is going to be very far out of the range of A$AP Rocky and Travis Scott back to back. Okay.
Excited?
It's going to be very much more traditional hip hop. I see that you're a big Action Bronson fan, so this should kind of fit, not in the same way because Action sounds so much like Ghostface, but he does use traditional beats, Alchemist, that type of stuff. This is very much a boom bap album. One of my favorite albums of all time. Little Brother, The Listening, is an excellent album from start to finish. If you don't know, Little Brother is Fonte, it's Big Pooh, and Ninth Wonder. They're all from North Carolina. Ninth Wonder, phenomenal producer, big boom bap album. Andrew, enjoy, buddy. It's about 18 songs, but this is 18 songs of absolutely expertly crafted 90s hip hop, done very well in a new way. Little Brother, The Listening is what I'd say.
And 18 songs is better than 30. I've never heard of Little Brother, so I'm excited to expand here. So yes, I will listen to that. I will have my thoughts on it the next time we talk here on the Sprint Right Option podcast, Jason. It was fun. Niners, not so much fun, but hey, I will literally talk to you about the San Francisco 49ers any day of the week. I have a blast doing it, Jason. We plan to continue this thing strong through 2025 and the foreseeable future. I love it. No matter how miserable the Niners make us, I have fun talking football with Jason Aponte, and I hope you guys enjoy watching us talk 49ers football. Great time to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. But Jason Aponte was fun. And Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners. And somebody help us with this video because I saw Robbie Gold at the end of it.
DM me. We're gonna get this figured out. We're gonna get a new opener, closer, and also we're so back, guys. John Cena sucks.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.